Center is such a tough position. It can literally make or break your season. If you start off with the correct mid-ranger, the correct gun, or the correct cheapie that goes on to become close to a gun, even if they average close to that 40 mark, which a few of these guys do, it can actually make your season. If you happen to pick wrong, a lot of the time you end up trading for the entire season. So I really think it's such an important thing to actually study the center position as much as you can. It's not that hard to get the mid position wrong or the hooker position wrong, for the most part, because there are a few less options and a few more guys that are actually really set in their role and consistent each and every week. Whereas the center position is so up and down, so volatile that if you get it right, it's going to make your season. Guys, if you didn't check there, the footer there, we've got the new banner. And if you haven't joined the private group yet, please do so. We just did the first live stream for that group, and we're going to be giving away our first lot of prizes next week. There are not too many people in there at the moment, so a great chance that you could almost make your money back that you put into it. So please jump in there as soon as possible. Yes, it's obviously a tool that's going to be used for the entire season, but it starts now, and I'm going to be rewarding those that get in early. So jump in. I appreciate that. There, we got prizes, we got merch, we got plenty of exclusive content, and the events that we're going to have there. So get in there and get involved. All right, we start up top. We got Will Penasini. So for him at 548, he was someone that I held for the majority of the year last year. My main issue with him was that I just didn't pick him in my starting team often enough. And when he did well, I tended to have him on the bench. So yeah, center's a very interesting one. And the question is, do you have any center cover, or do you just go with the two guys you got? Because I had cover last year and I was playing a little bit of merry-go-round between the three. So it seems to be a position, if they're doing poorly, you're going to get rid of them anyway. And if they're doing really well, you're going to keep them in that position. And you can just trade in and out, because most of them are at sort of a weird price, that sort of low to mid-ranger, or a bit above basement price as a cheapie. So Penasini is one of those guys last year that I popped in at the start of the year and had it all the rest of the way pretty much. So 38.4 average was solid in the centers. You're looking at a guy being a gun in the centers if they can average a little bit over 40. So guys like you and Aiken last year were awesome, but we don't have that option this year of guys that are going to be playing on an edge and scoring well for you in the centers. So with Penasini there is some interest on my end. He only had 4 scores under 20 last year, and a bunch of them I played him, unfortunately. Real solid base there. Very durable and a young improving player in a good team. Are the Eels going to be as good this year as they were last year, losing a couple of top-notch players? I'm not exactly sure. He had Isaiah Papali'i on his side last year, and depending who they put in there, it's not going to be someone that is anywhere near as talented as Papali'i. So just having his presence there, I think, has helped Penasini a little bit, but it also meant that Papali'i got a lot more of the ball than I'd say what the new edge player gets. So a couple of things to think about with him. Can he get up into the average of 40s and be a guy that you can plug in for the entire year? The Eels do have a pretty tough start, is the slight issue there for him. He hasn't been a keeper yet. He's on that right side, so right side usually isn't as dominant as the left. And, if you can get it wrong, really, he's probably going to stay at the same price, and he's not going to be a keeper. So, yeah, a little bit awkward, but not the worst thing ever if you have someone average 38.5 and plays the whole year, to be honest. Isaiah Tass, someone I find very interesting as well. At 531, you get him 17k cheaper than Penasini. He obviously didn't play as many games as Penasini did, but good chance he's going to be on that left for the Rabbitohs. And you look at his pros last year, averaged 37, and it was only one try. He had 25 in base, and I think he looks ready to step up in a team that I'm predicting to potentially make the top 4. So I think he looks ready, and definitely a chance at keeper on the left with a little bit of room to improve, considering he only played half the season last year. For those who picked him up early, he scored really well, and then we picked him up and he got about 15, and then another month or so until he came back into the team, and then really scored well for the back end of the season when the Bunnies scored well. So definitely has a little bit upside in the 40s, I'd say, for him. And I have him slightly over Penasini at the moment. Cons for him, only the half year, and he's obviously trying to lock down his spot. It's not guaranteed at this point when you have Tane Milne and these types of guys that are looking to grab that spot there. Katoni Staggs, a very interesting one for him, is the news that we just found out about him actually carrying an injury all year to go along with his injury in the previous year. So, yeah, very interesting. I think that he can definitely get back to a lot of the scores that he has had in the past. He was someone that clearly averages in the 40s, but he's very much injured a lot of the time. So that's a slight con for me, and why I find him as pretty risky. 5 tries and 4 assists last year, so nothing crazy. Obviously didn't play the full year, but has plenty of high upside. So when he does score, he can score a couple of tries. He's an absolute wrecking ball. When he does that, he can get a 50, 60, 70 pretty comfortably. So cons for him, he's a little bit inconsistent compared to a Tass and Panasini. Average team, and I find him to be fairly risky. Seb Chris from the Raiders. So 523k for him, the average of 36.6. Pros for him, he had a couple of scores over 70 last year, so he can go really big, which is great. Raiders improving is also great. He did average 50 the last 6. So is that something that you could see him coming out and doing really well again in a Raiders team that started poorly, was 2 out of their first 8 games they won, and then really improved from there and peaked coming into the final series. So can he do that again? His career average is 36 though, so it's a slight worry that he could just hold on that position. So he's definitely risky in my opinion there, and very inconsistent there. Justin Olam, 497, a bit more of a namesake guy, 34.7 the average. He's outside Munster, which is great, and he can have a month or so with streaks, like the bunch of these centre players. Team's not as good, unfortunately, pretty inconsistent, and when I say team not as good as previous years. I doubt that they're going to be coming first or second in minor premiership, probably like a 5th or 6th. Inconsistent, he's never really been a keeper. So I said that namesake that we tend to try and pop in our sides if you're a bit more of a beginner. But I'd be avoiding Olam at this point. Talatau Gola. We have the dual for him, which is nice. Center and the wing fullback, 479. So it comes in fairly cheap. Averaged 31.7 last year. You saw him, obviously, last year in a team in Manly are very uncertain, and they lost their last 6 or 7 games. So he played some games at fullback, which was great. He showed that he's very, very talented. So if Manly can play pretty well, I can see him averaging close to that 40, which gives him a decent amount of value there, to be honest with you. Obviously, the dual position's great, and he's a good young player. Just never played with Turbo as well. So, I think if Turbo's fit and firing, he can do really well, but there's some worries that, if Turbo's not there, he's just going to be somewhere in this average again. Because he actually had some games where he went really well this year, and then games where he wasn't so much, which made sense in a team that was struggling there. Mate Tomoko, we got him at 464, the average of 32.5. The pros for him, he averaged 41 the last 6, so you saw Seb Chris average 50, and Tomoko did really well as well. So the Raiders had a great last 6 games, and their natural improvement is going to be good. So they've got a full team this year. Everyone's fit and firing. They really only lost Adam Elliott, and the rest of it has stayed intact, and there's a bunch of young guys that are going to come up and improve a lot more, which you've seen with a lot of these outside backs. They're just so strong as a team, so very interesting. Cons, the low tackles for him, in the early teens is not great, and a career 35 average. So, can he get up into that 40s? I'm not exactly sure. Aaron Shop, so he moves to the Titans, and he's a 435k centre there at 30.4 average. So he's a nice, strong player. I think he has plenty of talent. That's probably the only pros I see for him moving to the Titans. At the Dogs, very similar teams, to be fair. No improvement, Dogs to Titans, I don't see. Dogs probably improving this year, so he would have done great in that left center role if he was to get it at the Dogs this year. And over his 2 seasons, he's averaged 31. So if someone like him, unless he shows tremendous improvement, Titans outside backs have had a habit of doing okay. Brian Kelly's of the world, Greg Barzoo, these types of players who have gotten up into the 500 to 50k kind of range, have all done a good job. But I just don't see the upside with him at the moment. But keep an eye on him through the year. Nick Kotrick, he is the dual as well. 413k, 28.9 the average. We're looking at him having obviously the dual position, but 238 season averages when he was with the Raiders previously. The Raiders are a better team, as I've said. There's plenty of outside backs in this list from that team. So if they go absolutely nuts, you can see a couple of these guys averaging 35, 40 for sure. But last year, you saw 7 out of the 19 games, he got 20 or less. And he's never been a keeper. He had 1 year there where he was a great cash cow, and that's why everyone loved him. But since then, he's been too much of an awkward price. Obviously being a tackle busting type of guy. He loses that obviously 1 point last year per tackle break, which killed him a bit. He can definitely have a bounce back and get somewhere near that 38, but I'd probably like to see it first, to be honest with you. You're paying 413 with an awkward price. You want some kind of certainty that they're going to make a bit of cash. And we don't know with Kotrick, and could destroy your season a little bit if he has a bunch of games under 20 to kick it off and actually loses money. Stafford Toa. So plenty of talk on the outside backs in the Tigers. We've got Tommy Talau as obviously an interesting one. You've got Toa and Kapoa there, who are all solid players, to be honest with you, and they were in pretty poor teams last year. So the both of them, if they're getting some game time, you'd imagine that there's a possibility that they're going to both improve naturally, which is going to be good. I'm not sure if I did the averages wrong here, if I copy and pasted, but let me know. Someone will let me know in the comments. That was funny the other day. I got a slight issue. I think Andrew Davey, I still said he was at Manly, where he's at the Dogs now, and I had like 5 people tell me. It's okay. All good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Toa, so yeah, very versatile. He's played 3 positions, and he played some fullback as well. Improving team, came over from the Knights last year. With him, the constant role isn't really set. Had a pretty bad average, and his best scores are at fullback. So yeah, slight issue for him is that he won't be getting fullback. And is he a keeper? Can he be a keeper? I don't see it. Kapoa, very similar thing, low attacking numbers for him, unfortunately. So he's in a better team, which could improve those attacking numbers, which is good. But the dual, and he's young, has a high missed tackle rate, so that needs to improve for him to be anywhere near keeper level. And to finish it off, we got Jackson Bolo there with the Roosters. So he got a dual position, which is great. 395. He's the cheapest of the lot. I just definitely see some interest in him. There's a great chance he's going to be at getting that wings position in a strong Roosters side. So anytime you have that, there's definitely some opportunity for improvement and potentially getting somewhere in the mid-30s. I can't see him being a 40 type of keeper in the centre or the fullback position, but can he make you some cash? I definitely think there's an opportunity for that there. But the pros for him, obviously a 33.4 centre average if he does happen to play centre at some point. If there's an injury and he moves to centres. But the main issue is that he's probably going to be on the wing there. The 2 tries and 2 assists is obviously really low last year, and he's cheap. And cons for him never been super relevant. The 12 tackles and 2.5 misses just isn't enough. That's in that centre position that we had him potentially pegged for. If there was injuries or something, he's more of a centre than he is a winger, but we'll have to see how that pans out for him. But what we have here is actually my top 5. So we have Tass is number 1 for me. I see him as having probably the best season out of the top guys here. Him and Penasini I can see averaging a tad over 40 this year. Penasini I'm a little bit more worried about being on the right, same as Stags, and just how much the Broncos and the Eels go to them. That was their main issue, is their run meters were really low compared to guys like Tass who get plenty of ball. So I think Tass number 1, Penasini number 2, Stags number 3, all very similar and can average over 40. And then you've got Bolo there, who I think can have probably 7 to 8 points of value if he can get a bunch of tries on that right edge. And then Talatau Kola there, I think has an opportunity to improve. If Manly really step up and improve as a team this year, I can see Kola doing really well and getting somewhere close to that 37 to 40 average, where currently he's priced at that 32. So definitely some upside on that one, and a little bit upside on all of them, but overall not a heap in this position. We're going to be looking hopefully to some more cheapies, unless you're happy to lock in one of these guys or lock in a Val Holmes or something like that in the center guns. But thanks for being here, guys. As I said, jump into that private group. There's very low numbers here at the moment. I'm sure it'll pick up, but yeah, get in now so you can get around the live Q&As, and also the prizes are going to be on offer. So thanks again, guys. See you later.